am Elodie, a wildlife photography instructor from Montreal, Canada. Today, I'd like to take you behind the scene of one of my favorite hummingbird image. So this image was taken here, actually. I have this window that you see. I was behind the window. I was at home, so it's my kitchen. And I have my hummingbird feeder, well, one of them, I have several, that was here. And so the hummingbirds were humming around and coming to feed. So you have to know that in Montreal, we have ruby-throated hummingbirds, and they do nest here in summer. The mommies have their babies here. And so it was middle of August, and we had the mom and the baby coming around to feed. So, and they started interacting. So I took my camera, I grabbed my camera, and I took some images. The camera that I used is an older camera, which is more than 15 years old, quite slow, with a 200mm lens. It's just to show you that you don't need the biggest lens or the newest camera, and you will still be able to take very good photos. So here behind my window, the window of my kitchen, I positioned myself so the background would be far enough to blur beautifully. You have to remember that your background is half your image. With hummingbirds, it's often the difference between snapshots and a wow image. So I shoot in aperture mode, which is something that I explain in my wildlife course. I wanted to freeze the hummingbird. You see here that I use a shutter speed of 1 on 1250 second, which doesn't leave much of a wing motion, just maybe a little bit on the edge of the wings. My ISO was 500. The aperture was open as far as I could go, which is f4 on this lens. And I used the burst mode, of course, because hummingbirds are going quite fast, and continuous autofocus. If you are familiar with the back button technique, this is something I would recommend using. This is what I usually do for animals, and especially tiny little birds. Just to give you an idea, with the 200mm lens and f4 as aperture, I was maybe, let's say, 5 meters from the hummingbirds. So you see here that my zone of focus is only 13 centimeter, which means both my hummingbirds needs to be in this 13 centimeter zone to be sharp, which is not much, okay? So they really have to be in this zone, and I would have a beautiful background and they would be sharp. The raw file shows the connection and the energy between mommy and baby, but it's quite flat. That's why editing is important, and how you can bring storytelling into that. So in the edit, I wanted to amplify the tenderness between the two birds. So I first started to crop the image, so both the animals would become central. I desaturated the background because I like when my background is soft and desaturated. And also I made both hummingbird pop a little bit more with clarity to bring out the iridescence in their feather with a subtle glow. I also added a radial filter to enhance the movement, because I like to show that they were moving and they were in action. So it's just a little bit, you can see it here on the tail, so to make this impression. Usually I don't use a lot of overlays, but here I added a first overlay to bring a little bit of magic. You can see it makes like a little bit of dust, magical dust. And I added a second overlay, which I usually don't do because that's the one with the hearts. But I felt like it worked so well here because I just wanted to help the viewer feel what I felt. So it was a subtle image, and I played with the opacity so it wasn't too obvious. I mean, when you look at the image, what I wanted to show was first the hummingbirds. You would see the hummingbird interact. You would see they were in movement. And then you would see like this heart bouquet and realize, oh, okay, that's tenderness moment. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about hummingbirds and how to attract them to your garden and how to photograph them creatively, well, you can look at my guide, the Essential Guide to Hummingbirds Photography. I also have a blog coming out in a few days where I will talk about what creative shots you can do with hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are also very special because they are so tiny, so fast, and so they push yourself creatively. You have to push yourself creatively to photograph them. So they are a very fascinating subject to photograph. If you don't have hummingbirds where you live, or you are more into other animals, well, you can download also my wildlife course, where I show you how to take images about any kind of wildlife. This is a PDF and videos in that course. The hummingbird course is only a PDF. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any question, feel free to send me a message, and I will be happy to help you improve yourself in photography. Bye bye.